I want to go across to Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi first. The Congress mighty upset. This is the Nehru Museum and Library that you're talking about, a globally renowned institution. The Congress says there is no harm in creating a second museum for all other prime ministers, but this was the Nehru Museum. For decades it's had a certain identity. Why try and tarnish and diminish Pandit Nehru's image? Just build another museum for everyone else. Why haven't you done that? Why have you changed the name? Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi.
First of all, in this premises, now India has entered into 21st century. The world has technologically transformed. The digital era has come. LED screens have come. So accordingly, any museum and library should be updated along with the newest technology. So if you go and see, even your correspondent was saying that one block is by and large exclusively dedicated to Jawaharlal Nehru. And in the second block, all the prime ministers have got mentioned. And if you go, you will feel that it is much more better placed, even the Nehru section, than it was previously before. But I'd like to ask just two questions. They are saying that we are trying to diminish the legacy of Jawaharlal Nehru. I can understand that with the non-Congress prime minister, they can have an apathy. They can have a disrespect to Dr. Manmohan Singh, P.V. Narasimha Rao and Lal Bahadur Shastri. But this is also having a proper mentioning of Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. Is Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi is outside the ambit of legacy of Jawaharlal Nehru? Now, what is the basis of your objection? All prime ministers have got, including his son and his daughter and grandson. And still you are claiming that it is being done to downplay the image of Jawaharlal Nehru.
Ron Gupta, most people who are watching at this time would tend to agree with Sudhanshu Trivedi that if they had done some hanky-panky in the allocation of a showcase for Indira Gandhi or for Rajiv Gandhi, then you probably had reason to be upset. If all prime ministers are getting pride of place, everyone's work, their relics are showcased, then why have a problem? It's much better for this to be called the Prime Minister's Museum and Library than for it to be named after one Prime Minister.
Rahul, see, the basic issue is with the mindset of the BJP, the way they are after the past. You cannot go in the past and decide whether something was right or wrong, right? We will never change the name of Atal Bihari Vajpayee if some road is named after that. That is the respect which the positions which are taken in past. We are not against putting other prime ministers section or that's fine, all fine. The basic issue is with the mindset of BJP. Wherever name Jawaharlal Nehru comes, either they blame Jawaharlal Nehru for their mistakes or they want to change his legacy. You cannot do that. He has been the longest serving prime minister who has contributed after freedom for creation of India. Why do you have to change the name? If you want to put other prime minister, definitely put it. We are not against it. You put a section. We respect that. But we are against the mindset of BJP, which is anti-Nehru, which is completely wrong. We are, after these many years of independence, the India has become India because of contribution of everybody. And Jawaharlal Nehru ji has played the role of foundation stone. You cannot undo that by changing the names. It shows your mindset, it shows your pettiness on the different issues. We are against that. You change one name, that's your mindset. You change 5 names, that's your mindset. What happened in Ahmedabad? You change name of Sardar Patel Stadium to Narendra Modi Stadium. Why that needs to be done? You give a different logic? No, it is a bigger campus we are naming, and after Sardar Patel, people won't buy this kind of logic, Rahul. It shows the mindset of BJP. That is where we have issue with. And you cannot change the legacy of Mr. Nehru or Manmohan Singh ji.
Harsh Madhusudan Gupta, where do you come out on this? Because it's a standing institute. To build another museum and library, by all means, the BJP government was welcome. Is it okay in your view to change the name of the Nehru Memorial and Museum and Library?
Rahul, thank you for having me. I've been associated with the institute as well, so these are my personal views. I think changing the name to PMML instead of NMML is in no way disrespecting any Prime Minister, least of all the first Prime Minister, Pandit Nehru, who was perhaps the longest serving Prime Minister for 17 years. I think we have to take a step back and understand that so long as the 5th generation of that dynasty, the Nehru-Gandhi dynasty, is in politics, any fair evaluation of Pandit Nehru himself will always be lopsided on both sides. One side will accentuate the positives and one side will accentuate the negatives. So given that, the fact that, and I've visited the place, the existing Nehru memorial part or the museum part is completely untouched, in fact has been improved. And as Sudhanshuji rightly mentioned, the other prime ministers get pride of place with the latest technology, holograms, etc. I really don't see it as in any way a mindset issue. I mean, the Indira Gandhi airport is there in Delhi, the Rajiv Gandhi Setu, the Bandravali ceiling is in Mumbai, and so on and so forth. Hundreds of places and schemes and infrastructure is named after the dynasty. So I don't think there is anything wrong about just respecting all prime ministers. This really should not be a partisan issue.
Pawan Verma, why do you come out on this? It's not as if they've changed the name of the Nehru Museum and turned it into the Vajpayee Museum. Instead, it's called the Prime Minister's Museum and Library, which stays the same no matter who's in power.
Frankly, Rahul, the fact that it's called Prime Minister's Museum is not something which I find that unacceptable. Perhaps they could have called the library, which has become an institution and has largely archives relating to Jawaharlal Nehru, the Nehru Library and the Prime Minister's Museum. But that is a choice for the government. That's what I feel. The real problem that I feel is undignified is a deliberate attempt to denigrate and downgrade or marginalize the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru. In my view, historical hindsight is an unfair, unkind and partisan pedestal. There is no Prime Minister who has not made mistakes, and you have to balance the mistakes that are visible in hindsight with the great achievements that they have achieved in their lifetime. Now, Nehru's contribution to the freedom movement, out of 30 years of the freedom movement, he spent almost half in jail. He fought for the freedom movement, and as the first Prime Minister of India, he laid the foundations of a secular, modern, scientific and I would say a progressive republic.
But
now,
none of what
he
Sir, Pawan Verma, none of Prime Minister Nehru's artifacts have been taken away by Sudhanshuji's party. They've changed the name to make it neutral, calling it the Prime Minister's Museum and Library. It's not as if they've taken anything of Pandit Nehru's away and stuffed in artifacts of other Prime Ministers instead. They've given space to everyone equally. So how is Nehru being denigrated in this?
No, I am saying that what has been done to the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library in itself is not the core question. It fits in with a larger agenda, A, to counterpoint Sardar Patel with Nehru, and B, to in a way, as I said, devalue Nehru's contribution to the making of India, which I believe is not only unfair but undignified. The Prime Minister himself, in his latest speech in Parliament, has attacked Panditji. It has been a campaign of the ruling party to highlight his wrongdoings, including on Kashmir, for instance, or during the China war. It is true, and this is where I want to complete. I have myself been somewhat critical of Panditji's definition of modernity, which was largely in a Western paradigm, and his attempt to look therefore at our great historical civilization, our Sanskriti, as the deadwood of the past, which he equated largely with superstition, prejudice and ritual. I believe it was not a correct assessment of India's civilizational ethos. But nevertheless, as our first Prime Minister, he kept the country together. He ruled for 17 years and made it actually a functioning democracy, unlike many other newly independent countries which quickly lapsed into undemocratic dictatorships. And I think it was his belief in democracy, belief in respect of all faiths, belief in science and research that has finally led to today Chandrayaan landing on the moon.
Okay.